Wow, what an embarrassing way to lose a World Series game. Just so embarrassing to choke away when you only need one out using Nestor Cortez instead of Tim Hill, and then um, and then intentionally walking Mookie Betts to bring up Freddie Freeman, where he then hits a walk-off grand slam. This would only be more embarrassing if, say, you had a meltdown in an elimination game um, and choked away a World Series that way. Let me guess, that's going to happen. That is going to happen. Right? I mean, like, oh wow, look at all those errors. So embarrassing. And do the Dodgers take advantage of these miscues? Of course, the Dodgers capitalize on the mistakes, and the Yankees blow a 5-0 lead. Let's just check on the score of the game and see if the Dodgers wound up capitalizing in the form of winning the game. And Jesus Christ, of course the Dodgers capitalize and win this game because of course they do. The Yankees gave it to them. Well, there's only one thing left to do now. Only one thing left to do. So, this video is going to talk about and expose the Yankees for how fraudulent the team truly was. They were one of the least deserving teams to make the World Series in a long, long time. And, you look at these games and you just look at how, like, looking at the runs scored, it actually looks pretty close from a runs scored perspective. Like, I can't find where the composite score was, but the Dodgers only wound up winning by 1 run because they won this one by 3. This was 2. This was 2. They lost this by 7, and they took this by 1. So yeah, it was a one-score game. But the Yankees made so many self-inflicted mistakes. They basically handed them the series. The Yankees choked away, twice big in the series. At this moment, the Yankees statistically had an 88.7% chance of winning. This was because they had one out, nobody on base, bottom of the 10th, 2 outs away from winning, up by 1 run. This game, the Yankees actually tried to plot a comeback in the ninth inning. They tried hard to come back. They had bases loaded, um, 1 out, down by 1, and then they got 2 more outs to seal the deal. But like, you could see how they almost had a comeback. in this game, again, they sleep until the ninth inning. And right here, this is where they made so many errors and just completely choked away the game. They at one point had a 96.4% chance of winning. They blew it. Now, the Yankees did win this game when the Dodgers punted it away, and the Dodgers did choke away a 68.6% chance of winning. Right here with this grand slam by Volpe, but still. So, what made the Yankees frauds? The main reason why I'm going to say this is because the Yankees were not the second best team in baseball. They just weren't. And they had a very easy path to get to the World Series, to the point where if they didn't, Aaron Boone would almost certainly be fired as manager of the Yankees. It, Aaron Boone was already on the hot seat, for their persistent playoff shortcomings. Um, and looking at the teams, you look at how soft the American League was compared to the National League. The Yankees were 94 and 68, and they got the one seed. In the National League, the Yankees are a three-seeded team, as well the Dodgers and Phillies have better records than them. And obviously, you're the one seed, and it's expected to an extent that you get an easy path to the World Series. However, the path was a little bit too easy for the Yankees, even by one seed standards, because of teams that had no business qualifying for the playoffs that they still got to face anyway. I think that the key point I'm trying to make is that the Royals had no business being in the playoffs whatsoever. Like, I'm happy for them that they broke their 9-year drought, but they really had no business being in the playoffs whatsoever, especially because, there were teams that were right behind them, like the Seattle Mariners, that didn't get their chance. Or even the Red Sox and Rays. Obviously, the Twins had the same problem that the Royals did, so I'm not going to count them. But like there were teams that missed the playoffs that were better than the Royals, but didn't get to feast on the Chicago White Sox. So not only was it where 94 wins got you the one seed, and all the teams here looked really easy, but it was also in a case of where the National League just was better in every single way. Every single seed, pretty much, was better in the NL than in the AL. I mean, like, look, the D-backs had 89 wins. 5 seed in the American League, they missed the playoffs completely. But yeah, looking at the path, the Kansas City Royals were just a bunch of White Sox merchants. Like 12-1 against Chicago White Sox. 12-1. The Tigers against the White Sox had a 10-3 record, and 2 of their losses came after they had already clinched the playoffs. So again, they're really feasting on the White Sox. That's, because the White Sox were so bad this year. They had 121 losses, and they were in that division. Now, to the Guardians' credit, they weren't actually White Sox merchants, as they had an 8-5 record against the White Sox, which is honestly just pathetic and embarrassing. But like, you look at the White Sox, the Guardians rather, they had a really good start, and then they just imploded down the stretch. Like, they played barely over 500 ball down the stretch, seeing as they went from 19 over at the end of May and finished at only 23 over 500. And obviously, them fading into irrelevance in the month of August, but still having that division pretty much sealed really just didn't help. Just didn't help. And you look at the wild card series, and people are going to say, well, if Kansas City and Detroit could beat out Houston and Baltimore, well, maybe it's not the Yankees' fault that this didn't happen. And to an extent, I believe you, especially when you look at how pathetic their losses were. I mean, the Orioles could not score runs against the Royals at home. So I could agree with you there. Maybe it's not. Maybe these teams beat out teams that could have beaten the Yankees. Seeing as how the Orioles actually had a pretty good record against the Yankees that year, as they went 8-5 against the Yankees, and while the Astros had a really poor record against the Yankees this year, going going only 1-6 against them. We know that the Astros are something different against the Yankees in the playoffs, as the Astros have won all 4 postseason meetings between the two clubs. So maybe, at least it's better than the Guardians and Royals, who really had no shot of beating the Yankees. But you know who else could have beaten the Yankees? The Detroit Tigers, who beat the Astros. Um, you know, they had only a 2-4 record against the Yankees, but that's deceptive because they played in August when you really saw like this new improved Tigers that had begun to come back from the dead at 55-63 and shock the world to make the playoffs. They played the Yankees 3 times and they won 2 of those games. They won 2 of those games, including a famous walk-off in Williamsport. So they took 2 out of 3 in that series. So the Tigers could have absolutely. And you might say, well, wait a second. They couldn't beat the Cleveland Guardians, so clearly the Tigers are better than the Guardians. That was a self-inflicted mistake. That even though people don't always agree with me on this, because of how good Tariq Skubal is, I don't think people fully understand the situation that you were in beforehand. Because if you did, you'd realize that why leaving him in there was dumb. You had a base hit and a strikeout. A base hit, another infield base hit that loaded up the bases with 1 out, and then you hit a batter by pitch. Now, I'm fine leaving Skubal in there when he loads the bases because he is a Cy Young ace and he probably can work out of it. Maybe he'll only allow 1 run, maybe 2, and even then you're still in this game even though you're trailing. But when you hit a batter by pitch, like, come on. He's clearly losing it. And then Lane Thomas hits the most predictable grand slam ever. And now it's 5-1, and your team basically has no chance of winning. Because your pitcher had a meltdown. Even though this is a meltdown that could be seen a mile away. If the bases weren't loaded, then I'm fine leaving him in there. But after you hit a batter by pitch and allow 3 base hits, like, come on. The Grand Slam is so predictable, and it's a shame on the Tigers manager that they didn't pull him there. Because we could probably, look at what his pitch count was getting to. Well, we can't, but still. So that was a self-inflicted mistake by the Tigers that really helped out the Yankees. Because if they didn't pull them there, good chance that the Tigers win Game 5, win the series, and maybe they would beat the Yankees instead of whatever the Guardians had to do in their path. But there's another angle too. Because in the National League, the Yankees didn't even put up a fight against the Dodgers. The Mets might have lost by stoic margins, but they at least won by 2. Obviously, losing 9-0, 8-0, 10-2, you're not going to win those games. Even a 10-5 game, the Mets still had a chance to win for a while if they had made better decisions earlier on. They had the early lead, and then they blew it in the 3rd inning with some not so great decisions out of the bullpen. But you have San Diego, who actually has a lead against them, and then a shutout for 24 straight innings. And, after they build up a lead against the Dodgers. But the Padres were actually really close to winning that series. The Mets, weren't, but still put up more of a fight than the Yankees did. And look at the teams they had to beat. Atlanta was heavily injured, but they were still a pretty good team. The Mets had to beat Milwaukee and then Philadelphia. So, I mean, you cannot say that any of the NLDS teams would have been able to lose to the Yankees. Maybe the Phillies, but that's about it.